Hello and welcome along to the Crystal Conversation. Today we are absolutely thrilled to have Alphedia Arara with us as the guest speaker. Alphedia is the author and spiritual channel and with the Earth Keepers. She offers spiritual guidance, channeling workshops, retreats and transmissions from many beings of light in the many realms and dimensions. She is an international facilitator, and people from all around the world take part in her courses distantly. As we move on through the day, hopefully this meeting will reveal more of Alphedia's focus and work. For today, we're going to be honing in on the crystal skulls. So I would like to invite Alphedia to come along and into the Crystal Conversation and say hi and welcome.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much for inviting me along today. Really looking forward to our chat.
Oh, thank you. We are too. Now, I know that the Crystal Skulls and the Crystal Skulls Conclave is something that you've been working with since 2009, Alphedia. I don't know if you feel that you would like to say anything about that. Or...
Yes. So I have always loved crystals ever since I was a little girl. And I actually went off to university and studied earth science, and we had to sit exams on studying geologically crystals. And when I had my spiritual wake up and started to meditate, working with the nature spirits, I was working a lot with crystals. But in 2009, I was invited to be a speaker at the London Mind, Body and Spirit show in Olympia. And my friend Kwali Kumara, who is an amazing Kundalini yoga teacher and snake priestess, she brought me her crystal skull, a clear quartz crystal skull. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, that she'd been gifted by somebody. And she said, there is a man here with a stall of crystal skulls. You have to go and get yourself a crystal skull. I should have brought Keith in, actually. I should have brought my first crystal skull into the chat, but he's not with us. But I got my first crystal skull. He's a white and brown jasper skull called Keith. And I found that I could hear him talking just like I could hear angels and fairies. I am a clairaudient. And so I was like, oh, great. And ever since that time, more and more crystal skulls have come to me. Now my largest skull he's not actually in the room. No, but Lunaris is my largest. She's over there. I can't lift her. She's 22 kilograms. She's about this size. And she's a snakeskin jasper, so she's orange, but Ardmano is my heaviest one, and he is a Preseli bluestone, so he's from the Welsh Mountains, and of course Preseli is what is in the centre of Stonehenge. So he's the heaviest at 28 kilograms and probably my best known crystal skull. But my largest one at the start was Sheer Ling, who is a Merlinite one, and he's about that size, and he does earth healing work. And yes, so they just started coming to me, and then it was the winter where we had -25 in Scotland. So I think that was maybe the winter of 2010, and nobody could. It's funny, we're in lockdown now in Scotland and you are in England, but nobody could come for workshops because we were all snowed in. And I just was like, how am I going to earn some money this month? And Armano said, well, I'm going to start to offer healings. And so he still does our healings, and I channeled the messages for the people about the healing afterwards. And then my journey with healing people with crystal skulls started as well. And then earth healing with the crystal skulls. They started telling me about how to gather people together, to go to sacred sites, to do activations, and to heal the land with them. And yeah, it's really started from there. I was then contacted by Judy Hall, who, if this is a crystal podcast, a lot of people will know Judy. And she contacted me because she was writing a book. I can't remember when she wrote this one. It was for an American publisher. And she'd been asked to do a book. So it was 2016, yes, on crystal skulls. And she asked if she could use some of the information that I channeled about the Crystal Skull Conclave, and if she could feature me in the book, and if I could write some parts of the book, particularly earth healing with the skulls. So, you know, the journey has just continued to me now having one of the largest crystal skull shops in the UK. I get hand carved, bespoke. A lot of the big skulls never actually go on the shop. They're bespoke carvings I get done, but you know, we have a whole variety of them, and it's not just the classic crystal skulls that you sort of see here. I also work with the dragon skulls, the unicorn skulls, the star being skulls, and so I've got some of them that I can show you today throughout this talk as well. And yeah, people from all around the world just started contacting me, wanting to work with skulls, and yeah, it's just been a fascinating and unexpected journey.
Yeah, which is as it unfolds, isn't it? If you're in the flow of it, that is how it unfolds, isn't it? And I don't know if you yourself sometimes find yourself in the midst of it, and it makes sense, but it's also equally quite remarkable to be in that spot, I would imagine.
Yes, no, I think that I've learned through my journey, or I know I've learned through my journey, to not have expectations and not to judge anything either. To just, like, I was adamant that I needed to get a dragon skull carver, and I was trying to get my geologist for 2 years to find a carver of dragon skulls. And now it's, you know, now there's a few carvers, but at that time, 5-6 years ago, nobody had, you know, dragon skulls. And now I've got, you know, I've probably sold one of the world's largest sellers of dragon skulls. So I set up the dragonwisdomschool.org, which is one of my websites all about dragons, and the elemental beings website, which is just elementalbeings.co.uk. It's the same shop for both. So if you're looking for a dragon and you're on the Elemental Beings site, it'll take you to the dragons. But I think that it was just their time. You know, we were after 2012, and it just was the time for all of us to remember that these crystals are our allies, and the skulls, as I teach people, they're not just the crystal, they contain a consciousness, which they've told me is called the Crystal Skull Conclave. And just like angels or fairies, they all have their own specialities, and therefore they choose their crystal depending on their special healing properties or knowledge. And so a lot of people come to me and say, I don't know which dragon to get, can you just tune in for me? Because they know that there's a particular energy they have to work with, but they're not sure what it is. And you know, you just have to trust with it that the right medicine will come to you. And of course, we're talking about the skull medicine, the crystal medicine on this podcast. And it is a very intuitive journey, and more people are awakening to working with them.
Beautiful. And I was going to ask you about that, because I do know that you are a channeler, and you did have a very powerful experience that entered into that. And what I wanted to ask you is, for those where the phenomena of setting up a relationship with a crystal skull, when you say you help people get into right relationship with the crystal skull, is that what you're referring to? Are you of the idea that everybody is capable of opening up this relationship? How?
Yes, because I believe everybody is psychic. I believe we all have a sixth sense. It's just that we don't get trained in it in the way we do our others. Like, we wouldn't know, you know, that the sky was blue and the grass was green unless somebody told us that was the colours we were seeing. So that develops our sight very early on. We hear noises as children, babies, and somebody tells us what that noise is. We taste food, and somebody tells us, well, that's what fruit tastes like because it's sweet. Or, you know, we are trained, but here in the West, we're not trained to develop our sixth sense. You know, maybe if you're in some other faiths, you would be, but, or in like other countries, but in general, very few children are brought up to honor their intuition, to trust it, and to understand their psychic experiences and their gifts and talents. And, you know, so it's everybody can connect with everything. We are all one. It is only our limited belief patterns that stop us from being able to have that. And then sometimes I get people saying, oh, I've been working for 5-6 years and I still can't do it. You got to have self-responsibility. You're not just dealing with this life. You've got to clear your ancestral lineage. You've got to clear your past lives, all the baggage you have come in with as a soul. Look at your blocks. Why aren't you receiving anything? What is stopping you getting this information? And for a lot of people, it's fear, or they've been told when they were younger that, you know, it's wrong to be psychic, or you're worthless, you can never do anything. And they carry this pattern into adulthood. So a lot of the work I do with people is to, in all my courses, and I've got 500 recorded workshops that people can download on all manner of things, you know, and I channel not just the words, but I channel the energy to help you have these inner shifts, to help you overcome these blocks. Because, you know, some people are in acceptance, they're not really maybe getting the visions, they're maybe not getting the feelings that other people's are getting, but they just know in their hearts this is the right thing for them, and they're very trusting. And then I've come across other people who get really angry and frustrated and upset, and they'll maybe even start trying to attack me. And then that's just showing them the stuff they've got inside them. They've got anger issues to deal with. They've been hurt in the past. They've got like injustice matrix, you know. So even when you're not getting information at the start, it'll tell you things about yourself, where your blocks are lying. And that's a gift in itself, isn't it?
Well, yes, and I know that coming inside of your work, having done a few courses with you, either online or in person, what I have therefore experienced has been very much a felt sense, and I've also been able to experience visual representations that accumulate over time in an incremental way that helps make sense of maybe another level or another dimensional experience of myself. So
yes,
I find that process itself fascinating, because it feels an authentication of the what would we call it, the immortal part of ourselves, the part, whatever we'd call it, that has been here along the time-space continuum since the origins. So I'm very.
And you see, a lot of people, for example, if I bring in Cara, because she's my Atlanticite skull. So she's like, for me, a medium-sized skull, but for a lot of people, she would be a big skull. To own a skull like this, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So for a lot of people, it's an aspiration to have a skull like this one. Obviously, the larger ones, you're into the thousands of pounds for them. But, you know, Cara, she's Atlanticite crystal, so she's serpentine and stitched tight. And a lot of us are remembering the 12 scholars of Atlantis. In Atlantis, they were clear quartz, my Atlantean clear quartz. I can't show you her, she's under my bed at the moment because she's in a healing grid under my bed just now. But they were clear quartz, and they were like the computers of modern day computers, where source downloaded information into these 12 skulls. There were priests and priestesses who were in charge of looking after the skulls, who were in charge of receiving information from them and disseminating the information out to everybody else. So just as we have IT specialists, I certainly am not one, you know, who can decode the inner workings of a computer. I have no clue about that, but, you know, I can decode this computer, okay? So some people really like to receive the skull messages because they remember working with them in Atlantis. and but they know it's maybe not their forte to get the information directly, which is why the skulls asked me to start to do that, because it was one of the roles that I had in Atlantis. I did learn to work with the skulls then. And so, you know, it's an opportunity to receive information. So when you're guided to become a skull guardian, I should have brought a little skull in as well, because most of the skulls, I'm trying to see, I'll just quickly go up. This is not the smallest skull, but this is kind of, this one here, you can maybe see. So this is my Shungite skull. This one went with me around a tour of France in 2019. We went to the Carnac Stone Circle, we went to Chartres Cathedral, we went to Merlin's Well. So this is a light skull, and it's very portable, you know. So a lot of people start off with skulls about this size or smaller because they're cheaper, and they're also easier to carry about and to, you know, get to know. The thing with the skulls that I didn't expect is they like to hang out together. There's a reason there was 12 skulls in Atlantis. It's a bit like plants. Plants like to have other plants round about them, you know. So once you get one skull, you'll find that more skulls want to come. It's just kind of how they work. Well, crystals in general, don't they? Because your matrix remembers the frequencies and the vibrations and wants them in your life. So I have to admit, poor Cara here, she's been with me for maybe about 3-4 years, and I haven't worked with her much compared to my other skulls. And sometimes crystal skulls come in and they might just sit there and you're like, I don't know why I bought you, you're not doing anything. The crystal skulls can be dormant for a while. They can just be what I call asleep. And then they'll start to wake up. So I always encourage people, if you are really getting visions about a skull, or if a skull's come to you, don't worry if you don't want to work with it immediately. She's only going to start working this year. So she's not even done a Facebook Live. You know, I do free Facebook Live skull healings through my Alphedia Arara Kensington profile. You know, whereas Shearling arrived, he sat with me for maybe about 3 months and then was working. You know, some of them come in immediately and are getting straight to work now. So, you know, it's a very intuitive experience. Now, another thing to be aware of with the crystal skulls is they bring up a lot of fear in people. Okay, particularly this style of skull. So this is what would be what they would call like one of the original ones. It looks like a human brain, doesn't it? Yeah. Which is why it was formed like that, the skull of the human in Atlantis. But really, they're an energy, just like an angel's an energy. It'll materialize to you with wings, perhaps, in your clairvoyant vision. The skulls are the same, and they are a consciousness. You can connect with that consciousness without the skull. Okay, it's just that most people can't do that. Their mind blocks them from doing that. So the Skull Conclave realized it needed, so the Skull Conclave was helping humanity during Lemuria. But in Lemuria, we weren't physical. Come Atlantis, we were physical, and they realized they needed to physicalize themselves. And clear quartz is the amplifier crystal. It is the crystal that, you know, you would put clear quartz with another crystal to amplify the healing. You would hold clear quartz if you were learning to channel and you wanted to receive clearer information. I call it the crystal of clarity, because that's what clear quartz brings. It brings a clarity. And the Atlantean crystal skulls were totally clear. You can imagine pristine, clear quartz. Very rare to find that on the earth, but you know, they were clear because they weren't actually of the earth. They were created by the star beings and materialized into physical form. At the fall of Atlantis, they were dispersed by the master souls who left Atlantis to go and start the civilizations such as in Egypt, such as in Central America, such as up in the Himalayas. And so the Himalayan skulls are some of the oldest ones, and mostly the Mayan are famous for working with the crystal skulls. And what happened though is that as the Mayan civilization started to fall. And then the Aztecs came in, who were a bit more bloodthirsty and not living so much in spiritual harmony, because the energy of the earth was denser, getting denser and getting denser. The Aztecs didn't know how to work with the skulls, but they knew they were important. And they actually started to sacrifice souls. I was sacrificed for a crystal skull to try and appease the skulls, because they saw the skull as like a god, and they wanted better harvest, or for a famine to end, or like a plague to stop, or whatever. And they started to go down this route of, you know, human sacrifice, which was not obviously of the light. And so again, that fed into a lot of fear memories for people. But also a lot of people who are scared of dying are often scared of skulls, because the skull is a representation of death in our society. And so obviously if you're scared of dying, then that's something to work on in your spiritual evolution, because you're scared of moving on, you know, as you said, through all time and space. And so they can bring up fears for people. And so I do a lot of healing, not so much now because I've been doing this for over 10 years, but a lot of my earlier workshops was helping people to overcome any fear triggers that they may feel from like looking at a skull like this. Obviously other types of skulls have come in as well that we can talk about in a moment, but it's just a general awareness for people if they feel any of these triggers or repulsion or any sort of what we call negative energies coming up about the skulls, that there may be some past life work for them to look at and do to heal.
Well, it's interesting for all of us that find ourselves experiencing, I think it was back in 2007, where I was doing a call over. I've been doing some spiritual work and for a long period of time, and knew that there was a time of a transition coming into my life. And that's when I experienced waking up dreaming of a particular crystal skull, which I didn't particularly have any reference for at the time. So I'm interested in what you're saying about the way the crystal skulls communicate, possibly through visions, or you have images of them, and then maybe you move towards experiencing the physicality of them, or I suppose there's many inroads into it, but it is an interesting phenomenon how we do pick up on these energies and this radiation, really.
That's right, because they were trying to wake people up pre-2012. The skulls started to proliferate, as in they were starting to be modern skulls, started to carve, or started feeling the call to carve modern skulls. My ones are all pretty much hand carved. You do get machine carved ones as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. Machinery is always used nowadays in carving. It has to be used. There's just no way that we can, you know, it would be very unusual, and you can't get the intricate work really without some form of machinery to polish the stone or to smooth it, or, you know, things. So, but what happened was they needed to get out there. They needed the light to get out there. So more sort of started flooding into the spiritual market as more people wakened up to using them as tools. And I would say that pretty much everybody on a spiritual journey now will at some point gain a crystal skull into their, you know, collection. You know, so the first ones that sort of really were getting carved were the ones like sort of like this style, and then the dragon consciousness started to wake up. So this actually is one of the ones that's in the shop at the moment. This is a white jade. So this is a 5-inch one, the largest. I've got 2 large dragons. So I've got Anka, who is a 10.5-inch Scottish serpentine dragon. She was hand carved from me. She's the largest Scottish serpentine dragon in the world, from a mine up in the west coast of Scotland. And then there's Refundus, who's my first big dragon. He's a 10-inch black obsidian. And I thought he was in the room, but I could have shown you, but they seem to be working elsewhere at the moment. This is kind of my crystal room I'm in. It's the therapy room, and usually they're all in here, but obviously I think they've been moved into the other part of the centre. But anyway, so yeah, these beautiful dragon skulls started to get carved. And well, I really was adamant that I needed to find a carver who could make bespoke handmade ones. This is another new one. This one's just arrived, actually. It's not even on the shop or anything. This is an orange calcite one. So that's a 4-inch, this is a 5-inch, and obviously they get bigger. A lot of people start small though. So on my shop, I've now got 1-inch, 2-inch ones. They're machine carved. They're not as intricate. The hand carved ones tend to start at the 3-inch size. And that's why you'll notice a price jump, you know. So you can get a little 1-inch one starting for £20, and then obviously you're going up to big ones. I've just had a commission for one that'll be several thousands, a big one. So, you know, they are quite powerful as well. The dragon skulls work differently to the skull conclave. They are crystalline.
I was going to ask you about that, if there was a diversion, a difference at all.
Yes, so the crystal conclave is in the crystal skulls, okay? The dragon is like a crystalline dragon. So these are the crystal dragons. The dragon skulls have an etheric body. So this is the head of the dragon, but actually, if you're psychic enough, you can see the etheric body comes out the back of your dragon. It's got an etheric tail, and you would sit and meditate with it, and its tail is doing the healing. The dragon's healing you as well. And again, I do free healings with these on Facebook. So they are the dragons, and they're connecting to the dragon consciousness, which is all about transformation, all about change. They're great to work with if you're trying to shift blockages in your life, if you're trying to ask for protection as well. They're highly protective. But they're excellent for earth healing as well, because if you place these on a ley line, you can just ask them to shift the stuck energy in the ley lines, or to harmonize the codes if you're drawn to go to stone circles. A lot of my work now involves activating stone circles. That a lot of people visit them, but they're not doing the earth healing work to, you know, activate them. So I take groups of people from all over the world, and we go in with our skulls, and we set up grids on key dates and activate the energies. And the dragons also, the ley lines are the energy lines, like the meridians of the earth. And they're known as dragon lines as well, you know, that's why, because the dragons travel down through the ley lines. So the skulls started to work, and the dragons really started to come into consciousness after 2020. These were when the dragon skulls came in. And then the unicorn skulls got carved. So I wrote a book, Ascending with Unicorns. It's an ebook. I was asked to write it by the unicorns in 2012. And then the first edition didn't have unicorn skulls, but then the unicorn skulls were birthed, and their role is the unicorns are beings of love and light. So again, they're a bit like the dragons. This is a crystalline unicorn. This one, it's a green moss agate one. This is a 4-inch size. The largest one I've got is a 5-inch. It's a lapis one. But the unicorns are all about heart healing. They're all about us loving ourselves. So you can see we've gone through the evolution of humanity, which has been fast over the last few years. We've gone from the computers, the brains, reminding us we need to wake up, we need to get enough light on the planet to shift us through the 21-12-12 portal, to have enough light so that we don't go through another cycle of darkness and we power through to ascension. Then the dragons came in to shift all the stuck energy, and they're working away in the ley lines to help this new earth portal activate. And then the unicorns came in to bring the love in, because we heal through love. So we started to go through this process of ascension. We had to return to the heart. The only way we can get through the ascension journey is to be in the heart, is to shift anything, the fear, the anger, the sorrow, the grief, whatever it is that is your ego aspect that is still playing out for you. So the unicorn consciousness started to flood the planet and started to work. And then for earth healing, they came in to put the love into the ley lines to help Gaia, you know, activate her love codes. And then more recently, just in the last 2 or 3 years, the carving started to come in from the galactic. So this is a star being skull. This is a blossom jasper one. This is also one of the ones that's on the shop at the moment, because my one's under my bed as well. I've got a Venus one. So this is a Pleiadian healer. And so what's happened now is we're starting to remember that we can connect with consciousnesses in other star systems. Our galactic brethren are trying to reconnect with us. They're trying to say, remember us. So a lot of my work in the last 2 years has been channeling star being transmissions, who are bringing through such deep healing for us. And then they started to want to reside within the consciousness of the star being skulls. And so again, you get small ones. I've got ones that are, really reasonably priced, and this one's up to like a £300 skull. This one, so you've got different star beings that are coming through, and we started off most of Syrians and Pleiadians, Arcturians, and now we're getting other ones. We're getting the Pegasus beings. We're getting the Cygnus beings. They're all starting to come through this year. So again, it's this evolution of the skull consciousness with the evolution of humanity. And my work's really cutting edge. For a lot of people on the spiritual path, it still would be a bit way out for them to think about connecting with a Syrian star being and them being their guide and them helping them. But this journey is happening in the physical realm with the crystal skulls too. So, the star being skulls are now one of my most popular sellers. And then the newest one, which has just been birthed, and I didn't actually bring one in, so maybe it's for a future chat, is the Phoenix skulls. They've just arrived this year. And, they're now up on the shop, and I'm the only person in the world to have them at the moment, because I got them carved, we got the vision, and they are so powerful, and their energy is really going to be powering us through after the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere of 2021. So, our crystal allies are really helping us humans ascend and helping us humans move through our own stages of evolution and consciousness. So maybe you're just at the stage of being able and ready to work with one of these guys, and that's perfect. You're at the stage now to be working with the crystal skull, and then the time will come where the star beings, you're ready for a star being skull, or ultimately the Phoenix skull. That's where we're at with it just now. And there's various versions as well. There's other carvers out there, but talking about them as a consciousness and why they're here on earth is really to take us on this soul evolution. It's to assist us making this movement to returning to oneness, returning to all that is love, and to remember that we're all brothers and sisters, regardless of where we're at in our consciousness. And ultimately, it's to move out of this place of judgmentalism, to just see even the people that maybe are causing pain and suffering to others, but if we can love them without judgment, that's how they heal, that's how they evolve. But we have to have nothing left in our matrix that is of judgment, that is generated by fear or anger. And that's the process humanity is on over the next 7-year cycle and beyond. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be on Earth.
Well, and it's certainly something that I'm sure I and many of the other people that are aware of you, Alphedia, really appreciate, is that you have been able to consider this as a journey of evolution. We can join along with it. I know that I've been able to access your work through the elemental websites and the YouTubes and other places, and so you're able to bring it very much to life within a meaningful context. And for that, I'm very, very grateful, because I know the one that you just showed, the star being. Did you recently do a video?
Facebook Live with it, yes.
And as I'm seeing, I can remember the connection that I felt at the time. And, it's a wonderful window of opportunity that through the technology and your connection, you are bringing to so many people, really, should they choose to.
I know, and it's lockdown's been great because everybody's had to get used to Zoom, everybody's had to get online, everybody's had to start to realise the power of distance healing as well. Because I think we were very conditioned into thinking, oh, I physically have to be somewhere. And it's great to physically be somewhere and to have those experiences. But when somebody says to me, oh no, it's much more powerful for me if I'm in person, that tells me they're blocks. That tells me about them. Because the healing is the same regardless. It is just conditioned blocks, you know, in their people's minds that they are not one and they're not able to be in oneness with healing. So you can go for Reiki, and yes, it is powerful to have somebody physically sat beside you, but it can just be as powerful lying in your bed and the person sending you Reiki from Australia and you're in Scotland. You know, it's just our minds that stop us. The healing energy is still running the same. And in some ways, lockdown has been great because it's made people see the importance of connectedness through energy, you know. And yes, physical touch is very important, and having that physical connection, the integration between your matrices, which is what happens with our auras, is very, very important. And it is important we get back to that experience. And yes, there's definitely importance for gathering together when you're doing activation work, and mine is mostly earth healing work. Definitely physically being present together is the ultimate. But if you're not able to be there, it doesn't actually matter. You can still be inputting your energy. You can still be having an experience, and you don't have to feel this lack vibration, which humanity has been conditioned to live through lack, especially in the West. Our advertising is all about what you're lacking. You don't have this product, therefore you're lacking in your life. There's something wrong that you don't have this. That's a whole consumerism. It's built on that, feeding the lack, and we're moving out of this place of lack and just into oneness and love. And as you said, trusting your intuition, knowing you're in the right place at the right time in each and every moment.
Quite so. I mean, it's just the wonder of what you're showing, because of course this is the reality of the mechanism of unity consciousness, isn't it?
Yes,
these elements
exactly.
Of picking up the energies, being aware of it, registering it in whatever way our senses register it. And that's what I find you facilitate. You allow us to step within. So it's wonderful. It's really
I'm glad to get some good feedback about my work.
Oh, it's remarkable. I am aware that we may, I mean, the time is running, and I'm aware that we may be coming to a time to consider closing down. And before I do that, I'd like to ask you if you'd say a little bit more about where people can find out more of your work. But I just want to ask you, with the a lot of the talk of the rise of the feminine, I just wondered if you, or the placement of the feminine, I wondered the work with the Mary Magdalene consciousness, because in all the paintings, of course, that she was always represented with a skull. And you mentioned going to France and other places. I wondered if you had any thoughts to add to that connection or that association.
Okay, so I am a Magdalene channel. I actually have the aspect of the Magdalene within me. That's why I run a lot of Magdalene earth healing retreats, whether they're in Glastonbury, Iona. Iona, for those around the world, is a very small spiritual island off of the west coast of Scotland. You have to cross another island and 2 ferries to get there. And I run really intense, powerful retreats there because it's one of the heart centers of the world. So the rise of the feminine is not to displace the masculine. The whole point the feminine is rising is to bring us into unification. The Magdalene energy has been all about bringing us to equality and about empowering us, and also about healing the deep wounding that has happened to the feminine over the last couple of thousand years. longer. And so this rise of the feminine energies is it is not just within female forum people, it's men as well. It's that nurture aspect. It is that mothering energy. We were all born from mothers, okay? We were all birthed out of the womb. And the energies now is to heal this womb trauma, to heal the lack of nurture from the earth. So I think it's helpful for people not to think of it as the classic boy, girl, woman, man thing, but as a consciousness energy, and to look at the mother line, to look at the where you have distortion, I am going on massive mother healing work at the moment, you know, going back many lifetimes of abuse of, and still women to this day in some areas of the world have no voice. They have to cover their heads. They have to not be seen. They're unable to do certain jobs in certain countries. You know, we have a lot of freedom here in the United Kingdom as women. You know, we're still not fully at equal rights in all areas, but compared to where some women are in the world, you know, it's just different evolution too. And it's not actually about equality. It's about the unification. Yeah. It is about the return of oneness. And that is where feminism has gone a bit out of balance in some ways, because it is not about being anti-male or having to put the male energy down. It is actually about the nurturing love of the mother, which allows the distorted masculine to heal. You know, because the mother is the nurture place, and it is through the rise of the feminine that the distorted masculine will start to heal and will start to come back to wholeness and balance within.
It's all interconnected, isn't it, with Gaia and as the feminine? It's all interconnected on all these levels of the female.
Well, it's the evolution. It's the evolution. We're playing out an experiment here. Let's be honest. We're in the game. We're in the matrix. It's a game. We're souls that have chosen to come into this game to navigate these lessons, to use our skills and our abilities. And you know, when you realize that, it takes away the personalization, and you move out of the individual I into the collective we. And so instead of feeling you're living your life, yes, you're here to fulfill yourself. That is the mission. It's to return to wholeness within. But you have a role to play in the collective wholeness as well. Beautiful. And this is probably a whole other conversation.
Absolutely. Well, yes, thank you so much. You've opened up so many connections that one can start to see how they do all interconnect within the unity consciousness. So I'm so grateful to having spent some time with you today. Before you go, just briefly, how can people find out further?
Okay, yes. So my main website is elementalbeings.co.uk. There's lots of free information on that. That's where I put up all my upcoming courses. I am doing courses every week. I do crystal skull healings weekly. That's a new thing that started in lockdown, group healings, which is at the moment they're just £10, $12 if you're in the UK because you have to pay VAT. And you know, we all lie down, meditate together at the same time. So they're happening weekly. If you sign up to my newsletter, www.elementalbeings.co.uk, you'll get the channeling sent to you, the information for booking courses. I also run the Dragon Wisdom School, as I said before, and that's dragonwisdomschool.org. If you sign up to that, it's free. You'll get a little ebook that will help you know which way the dragons are going to communicate with you. And my email is info@elementalbeings.co.uk. I run the two groups, Elemental Beings and also Dragon Wisdom School, and Crystal Kingdom and Skulls. Actually, I run 3 groups on Facebook, but most people connect with me through my profile on Facebook, Alphedia Arara Kensington. So just send a friend request there. That's where I do my Facebook lives, and that's an open profile. So even if we're not friends, you can see the videos. I also am Alphedia_channel on Instagram, and I have the Alphedia Arara YouTube channel and the Elemental Beings YouTube channel.
Fabulous.
So
Fabulous.
you should be able to connect with me through one of these mediums. I do have Elemental Beings on Twitter. I don't use Twitter, rarely at all. So they're the main mediums at the moment. But do feel free to get in touch, because people, you know, send me in questions, or they will, you know, mostly through Facebook. You know, if you've got any help or guidance you want with the crystal skulls, feel free to just get in touch.
Well, a wonderful gift, a wonderful gift. Thank you so much on behalf of us at the Crystal Conversation for coming along and sharing this conversation with us, Alphedia, and wishing you and all your loved ones all the love returning that you're giving out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.